join, then that's absolutely fine.
Great, thanks, Sue. And hi, everybody. My name's Richard Mead. I'm the director of Carers Scotland. Thank you all for being here today. It's great to see so many people. It's Carers Week, so this is a hugely important week for us as an organisation, but most importantly, it's a huge opportunity for us to spend this week talking about the challenges and issues that so many unpaid carers face, including those carers who are trying to be in paid employment as well as carrying out their caring role. So it's a hugely important week. It's great that we've got so many events right throughout the country, giving carers opportunities to share their stories, to talk about their experiences, and for us and others to learn about that and to potentially make some change that might lead to carers experiencing better experiences in both the workplace or more generally in wider society. And this year, it's a particularly important year for our Carer Positive initiative. Carer Positive is into its 10th year, and we are marking that and have done with a range of different events and activities. But I think it's really worth reflecting on just how far Carer Positive has come in its 10 years. We are now have over 275 organisations accredited with a Carer Positive award, which is fantastic. But really, what is really impressive and important is that those organisations, between them, that means over 500,000 of employees in Scotland are now working in organisations with Carer Positive accreditation. So hopefully in places where carers are supported and sorry, there's some feedback on. If people could mute, that would be really helpful. Thank you. Yeah, so it's hugely important that those 500,000 people are now working in organisations that support carers and have policies that are important to supporting carers, whether that's carer leave or flexible working, because we know those make the difference for carers, and we know from the research that we do where carers don't get flexible support, or they don't have supportive managers, or they don't have access to peer support networks, then that actually is a driver for them leaving paid employment, which is obviously not the outcome that they would want, or actually is good for business or organizations or even the economy. And of course, it's great that this session is here, and we're talking about all of those carer positive organisations that put a huge amount of time and effort into supporting carers and helping to develop carer networks, which I know, again, are massively important for carers in those organisations where they have networks, and the support, that peer support that they can give each other, and also then collectively work with organisations to raise awareness about carers issues, to raise awareness about carers, to help carers not only recognizing themselves as carers, but also to give them perhaps some confidence to put their hand up in a workplace and say, actually, I'm a carer and I might need a bit of help and support. So we're really pleased to see so many carer networks have developed throughout this last 10 years, and Carer Positive being there to sort of help support them. And it's great to be able to have meetings like this where we can bring different organizations and different networks together to connect, to talk, to listen to other carers, to share those experiences, and to learn from one another. I think those are really important opportunities, and I'm looking forward to hearing what people have to say about them today. So yeah, I don't want to say too much because I know Sue has got a few slides, and we really want to sort of hear from everyone else. So thank you again for joining us today. I hope you find the session really useful, and look forward to hearing a little bit more about all of your experiences, and hopefully sort of here's good practice and good examples of how things are working well in your areas and your organizations. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. That's great. And I did mean to say at the beginning, and apologies for that, and I can see that people have been proactive, which is great, and you've been popping in your names in the chat and just introducing yourself, which is really nice, because there's maybe a wee bit too many of us to go around the whole screen asking folk to introduce themselves. So do say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're from. And it's nice for everyone to see that. So as Richard said, I've just got a very few slides to you know, to sort of introduce the whole concept of what we're talking about, peer support. So 2 seconds and I'll get this back on screen. And really, I just want to say a little bit about the power of peer support and why this is so important. And I know from having worked with so many of you over the years and spoken to you as employers, spoken to you as carers, that actually sometimes it's the peer support that's the real lifeline for people. And that's what's been the most important element of how carers in workplaces have felt supported. Yes, it's really important, obviously, as Richard said, to have the policies, to have practical support, to have a whole range of other things. But sometimes just being able to talk to somebody else who's in the same situation and somebody who understands what you're going through, sometimes that's actually all you really need. And it's why it's been so fantastic over the years to see some of the wonderful examples of peer support that have been set up, whether those have been through, you know, big networks or forums or groups. Obviously, bigger organisations have done that, but sometimes also in smaller places, it's just folk getting together for a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. And sometimes it's very ad hoc. Sometimes the support arrangements aren't very formalised. You know, they're maybe not a group that meets on a very regular basis, but there's a network, a small core network of people who know that they can rely on each other for a chat or to ask a question. And we're going to be hearing about some of the different forms of peer support as we talk today, but I just wanted to highlight some quotes here. When you'll all know this from being through the carer positive process, when we receive a carer positive application, one of the things we're really keen to see within that is that there's carer input into the process. And, you know, it's not just something that's done within an HR department or done in isolation from actually talking to people. And we always ask for a testimonial or a statement from carers just to give a wee bit more reality to what this is all about. So for me, certainly that's one of the, sorry, I'm just admitting someone else in. For me, that's been one of the kind of most rewarding parts of being involved so deeply in this project over the past 10 years. I've heard from carers directly about the real difference to them that, you know, being part of a peer support network has meant. So I've put these quotes up there. You can read them all. I'll not sort of trundle through them all, but just it's really nice to see. There's a short one. You know, it's good to chat with anyone. I'm always up for a chat, a moan or a cry if needed. It's great to be able to share my situation with those that understand. Someone else saying it gave me a real boost to pause work for half an hour and have a cuppa with folk in a similar situation. And there's a really nice quote at the top right hand side about the fact that peer support had actually led them to set up a network. Worrying about work whilst I was grieving or caring was never a concern to me due to the incredible supportive experience I had. I was so impressed with this. I wanted to tell others about it and make sure that they had the same experience. And this is what inspired this person to set up the Parents and Carers network. Lots of other examples, carers cafes, carers communities, also online carers forums, you know, where people can't physically get together. Lots of great ideas. And I'm going to ask a few folk here to chip in with some of the experiences from their own organisations. But I've also got, if I can find the arrow for the next screen. This was from Historic Environment Scotland, who wanted to come along today but weren't able to, but they sent me a wee slide to share just to let you know what they do. And they're very they've got a very strong culture of support, and they've been working through the Carer Positive process. But what they've established is something called Carers Talking Circles, which take place every quarter, which offers peer-to-peer support on an online basis, which they think makes it easier for everyone to be able to access. And that space is used, as you'll see there, to share experiences and knowledge. And importantly, it feels safe and supportive. Now, a wellbeing and engagement partner attends this to answer any work-specific questions and to offer mental health first aid as a follow-up if required. But I would say on that point, and it's maybe something interesting to talk about in this space today, that and this is where carers networks and groups and support mechanisms are so interesting and so different, because sometimes they're wholly carer led and organised, and it's just carers actually who attend them. Obviously they've got places within the work structure, but they're not there as maybe a representative from HR or from, a corporate department. Whereas some other networks do have these groups more facilitated. Maybe they've got somebody from HR who goes along and helps organise them. But, that's just an example of how something might work. Anyway, that's a wee bit about what Historic Environment Scotland do, and they share a lot of their news and updates through their carers network. So what I'm going to do now is just ask a few other folk to come in. I've got some discussion points for afterwards, but I'm going to come out of this slide set just now. And I know that a lot of you here have been very heavily involved in the networks, so do feel free to, your networks or peer support mechanisms, do feel free to come in at any time. We want this session really to be for you. It's not about us presenting and telling you, about what we think works. You guys know what works, and you've seen sometimes what doesn't work. And this is a really good opportunity to sort of share some of those ideas, ask each other questions, and maybe take away some learning, or just talk in a way that you feel is going to sort of benefit the session today. But first of all, I thought I'd start by asking Yvonne Dunn from Scottish Water to say a few words, if you're okay with being asked to chip in first, Yvonne.
Yes, of course, Sue. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Could you put your volume up a tiny bit, Yvonne? You're quite quiet, unless it's just me.
Oh, I think that's it, Max. Can you hear me better now?
That's okay, yeah.
Closer. I'll come a bit closer. Hi, everybody. Yes, I've been working at Scottish Water for the last 2 years, and my day job is in the kind of people team, wellbeing and inclusion team. So we work closely with all our networks. As I say, I've been with Scottish Water about 2 years. I was blown away actually by the work that the network, the Carers Network, do. We've got some brilliant resources, and as a carer myself, my mum's about to celebrate her 90th birthday, so I've been able to tap into those resources, which is great. I think also what we've got, which I'm not sure if many other organisations or networks have out there, is what we have a carers wall. So if it's okay, so I was going to just share that with everyone today, just to give you a flavour of what that looks like. And it's really that piece around how we have support from our leadership and senior leaders. So I'm just going to bring that up now, and hopefully that's coming up. Sue, can you see that now? Yeah, good, great.
Yep.
So as you can see, this is kind of a resource that the network created over the last year or two, and what they basically do is, folks, do you want to give support and pledge your support to carers that work across Scottish Water? And we have quite a big workforce, over 4,000 people right across Scotland, and we estimate that we have 1 in 7 of our workforce are carers. So we have, if I scroll down a little bit, you'll see we've got commitment there from Alex Plant, who's who is our CEO, Peter's our Chief Operating Officer at Lynn Highway, our relatively new people director, and then of course lower down we've got like lots of different colleagues from right across the business. Our networks also has leadership sponsor by Karen D, and Karen is our general manager for wastewater. Let me just get our title right. Yeah, it's a wastewater service strategy. So one of our main operational areas of the business. We've got a commitment there from William Johnson, who couldn't be here with us today. I know we've got a couple of other colleagues from our network joining us today, which is brilliant. But yeah, well, that's William's contribution to the wall. And yeah, I won't share too many more, but we've got lots of colleagues from right across the business. Some folks like myself, perhaps, if they don't want to share their picture themselves, that's absolutely fine. You can put up a visual. There's mine down there too. So it's a really, we think it's a good idea, and yeah, we've had lots and lots of really great feedback from our people on it. So yeah, just wanted to share that idea with folks on the call. To see if anybody's got anything similar or any feedback on it.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much. I think that's great. I've not seen that before in other, I see quite a lot through applications that come in, and I've not, but I'm certainly opening that up to folk to come in and ask you about. And Alan, you've got your hand up first.
That's great actually. I quite like the use of SharePoint for that as well, so it's very easy to access. So I do think personally that's a really a good way to do it, and it gets everyone involved. We in our organisation we actually just have a health and wellbeing meeting once a month for the core staff, and the management do their own thing. So it's I might look to float that for them, given that I deal with the comms stuff. It might be useful to have a little page like that, but that's given me some thoughts. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Is anyone, I think I can see everyone else on screen. I don't see any hands up, but if anyone else wants to say anything else, then feel free. Lynn, hi.
Hi, yeah, I think that's a really, really good idea. I know we can post things on an internet, but that has a point of contact for people who maybe have caring responsibilities or issues but don't know who to go to necessarily, or just new into the service, or maybe don't know people, or maybe there are people on the wall that they do know and they could contact them for support. So I actually think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, every time we promote it, we see a little uptick in colleagues who will start following the Carers Network. They have their own Viva Engage, what used to be called Yammer chat. So we've seen that membership rise by over about 40% actually since 2021. So yeah, every time we put out any communications or chat from the network themselves, or indeed more corporate voice, we see that ticking up, which is really good, because I think it goes back to that whole issue of folks. I think I've heard you say before, Sue, about identifying themselves as carers first, and then actually putting their hand up and saying, yeah, that's me. So we've still got work to do, absolutely there, but yeah, this is definitely helping.
And Anne, you've got your hand up, and then Elaine, I know that you have as well. Hi, Anne.
Yeah, I posted a wee question, but I think it's got lost in the chat.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay, Vaughan. You kind of mentioned that about 1 in 7 carers approximately, or 1 in 7 people are in your organisation are maybe care. Was there a way you collected that information?
Yeah, we got that from our staff survey that we did, where we were able to ask basically equality information questions, because we've found that using our HR system solely, asking folks to go into that and update their equality data, like many organisations, big and small, we still have quite substantial data gaps, and we found we got a much better response using a staff survey, and we dedicated a whole section to that staff survey to all around equalities, and then obviously to ensure confidentiality and privacy, we obviously had to put really, a lot of safeguard rails around that in terms of how we were planning it, and data protection and all that good stuff. But that gave us really valuable data, and then we were able to kind of look at that from an intersectional lens as well. So because of the industry we're in, we're obviously have quite a large male majority of workforce, and that could kind of give us better understanding of, splitting sexes, who are carers, and all of that good stuff too. So yeah, that I would happy to chat to anyone about our approach that we took that time.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah, just on the fact that you've identified 1 in 7 people in your workforce is really great that those folk have identified themselves, because we roughly estimate that's the figure that we normally use, that we think who we think are carers who are combining work and care. That it's the statistic we always say that could represent around 1 in 7 of your workforce. But so many times, as you know, people still don't identify themselves as carers. So you're obviously engaging really well and reaching people, Yvonne, in Scottish Water.
Yeah, I think, as I say, we still have work to do in terms of our HR system, and we're now doing more regular data drives, encouraging people and making it as easy as possible for them to literally it would literally take 2 minutes for them to go and update their details. But I know that's a very similar challenge across the board. But yeah, we basically do, I think, along with a lot of public bodies in Scotland, we treat that as a carer status as a protected characteristic. And we'll go out and when we have to do our reporting, we will include data on that and narrative around obviously what we're doing to continually support and improve what we're doing for our carers.
Good stuff. Elaine, Adam, you've had your hand up for a wee while as well. Come on in.
Thanks, Sue. Yeah, it was just really to say I'd popped in the chat as well that it's a brilliant visual, and I think, as the colleague there had said, it's a two-way thing as well, because it identifies you as somebody that's supporting carers in the organisation as well, so that you're approachable from that perspective. Just when you were saying about the Viva Engage, how have you found that as a platform? Because I know at NHS24 that's something that we're looking towards for, kind of troubleshooting the fact that we can't get everybody offline at the same time for meetings and things. We want to have the peer support digital, but also have a face-to-face. Have you found that's been a good channel for you to do that? Thanks.
Yeah, from my kind of perspective, I suppose, as a carer as well, I think it's a really good channel. This was, I've been with Scottish Water 2 years, and I hadn't seen it before with my previous employers. So yeah, I was just really impressed with it when I first joined. And yeah, there's, you can go like anything, you can have little period of lulls, but then there can be lots of kind of activity, for Carers Week. And they've got an event, Carers Network, so I appreciate there's some colleagues actually on the call, so do chip in if I miss anything out, folks. But I know they're arranging a collaborative event with our Women in Scottish Water network for next week, because they want to hear more about folks who consider themselves carers and also parents, and those kind of sandwich carers too. How can we make flexible working more work better especially for our operational staff? So there's lots of really good promotion about that on Yammer at the moment, and they can use each network has their own kind of Yammer channel, but also we kind of have an overall colleague, all staff Yammer chat too. So yeah, no, we definitely see lots of good dialogue and chat happening in those. And again, another recent one on the Carers Network chat was someone was just making a query about the new updated policy in light of the Carers Leave Act. And our network colleagues and also our HR policy people were able to absolutely clarify that quite quickly. So yeah, we're finding it really helpful. Yeah, definitely recommend it.
That's great. Thanks very much, Yvonne. Might link in with you further down the line to see how we got on with it. Thank you.
I think that is the power of these kind of sessions, that you learn something new every time you hear from what's happening in a different organisation. And maybe one of the things we'll talk about at the end actually is, because we've not had a session specifically on networks before, but there's absolutely no reason why we can't make this a regular thing, that, you know, networks get together on a regular basis. We'd be more than happy to facilitate that, and more learning and sharing can continue. Amanda, would you mind if I asked you to say a few words now? Amanda Tough is from the Care Inspectorate, and she's known for juggling jelly, aren't you?
Juggling jelly, yeah, it was one of my articles.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we at the Care Inspectorate, we're on the established, and we've been on that for about 18 months, and we're working towards the exemplary level. Similar to yourself, Yvonne, we've got the a SharePoint site that we've set up. It's a team site. Our one is currently closed to just the carers themselves who've came forward, and as people identify and want to be part of the network, they can be, and that's so that we can enable folks to kind of speak confidential in their own wee space. And we found that's worked really well, because we've got meetings, and what we did was at the end of last year we've put out the dates for the whole year, but we worked with the folks in the group, because obviously our workforce is made up by a lot of inspectors, so quite often try to balance. That's maybe where the juggling jelly comes in. So they're balancing their workload with caring and just everything else that they've got to do. So we looked at different times of day. So we've got so many in the morning and so many in an afternoon, and we've organised them 6 weekly. So if you miss one, hopefully you'll maybe get to the next one. But in between that, we keep the Teams channel updated with discussion points. And we made, because of peer support has been one of the most successful things that's came out of this, is that what we're finding is that people will maybe message each other saying, oh, we missed you today. It was in hope everything's okay with you, and if you need to catch up about what we've discussed, can get in touch and we can have a coffee. So there's the natural ad hoc stuff that happens in between meetings, and I think it's probably happening a lot more than we recognise, because that's, and I don't want to use the term recruit, but that's how we seem to be attracting people into the network. Is sometimes they're having conversations and somebody says, do you know you're a carer? No. Well, we've heard about the network, and then we invite people in. We've also got the Yammer group. We've got the same. It fluctuates, it goes up and down. What we've found is that one's more open, and that's where I think that's been the difference between having the closed kind of network where people can chat. The function of the wider Yammer is to inform everybody in the organisation, just in case we miss anybody. We've got around 12 regular people that come to the network meetings, and that seems to be building. We signed up to the Dundee Carers Charter as well, and we did a wee programme with them. It was about 18 months ago, 18 months ago it would have been now, and we did a 6-week course for the people that want to come forward who were carers, and we looked at different things around health and well-being, learning some tools on how to relax, looking at reflection and self-care. What else have we done? We're the same. We've got the onboarding. When people join the organisation, it's in their qualities information, and how we've got around trying to attract folk to come to the network, but also recognising maybe don't want to, and they want to just get on with their job, is that one of the questions we ask is, do you identify as a carer? So it helps with quality data, but also, would you like us to get in touch and keep you updated with information? So we've built that in at the onboarding stage, and that gets reviewed annually too. What else have we done? I'm trying to think. We've got a leadership sponsor as well, who's Craig Morris, who's our head of improvement. So he like yourself, we've got Yvonne, we've got posts up from Craig, who's very supportive, and we're really highlighting that the network shouldn't be something that's an add-on, it's something that can be done in work time as well. We're encouraging folk to see that it's a genuine support mechanism for the workforce. And what we're intended to do next is, when we have corporate inductions, is to get a wee space at them to advertise all our staff networks. So we'll have representation there and see if we can encourage people to join if they want to join. And on our team site and on Yammer as well, we've got different tools for carers, which we've developed with the Dundee Carer Centre. And what we're doing at the moment is our carers policies due for review with the policy review group. So we invite HR in, but they've also came to us and said, can we approach the network and ask them if they would have some views on the policy and some ideas about how it could be shaped better. So it's also helping the organisation to move forward in terms of policy development. So that's where we're at. And I'm sorry, I don't have a slide to show everything, so I hope I've captured everything. Okay.
Thanks, Amanda. No, it's fine. Slides aren't necessary. It's nice to hear you speak and to cover all those points as well. And I think one of the things I remember being kind of impressed with also about the care inspectorate was, and without wanting to put you on the spot, Amanda, it was just the willingness to share your personal story.
Yeah.
And some of the others really kind of makes it come alive for people and helps folk who might not identify themselves as carers recognise bits of what you're doing and what they're doing, and it's that sort of bravery, I guess, from carers that sometimes give other people the confidence to recognise and identify themselves as carers.
And it'd be fair to say, Sue, when you were showing your slide with the comments from carers groups, we've had tears and we've had laughs as well, because and that's been the good bit of it as well. And sometimes we've said, wouldn't it be good just to write a book of some of our experiences, but not always from a negative, because lots of people have, like I said, we've had lots of laughs too, about different situations that folks found themselves in. But not ignoring that obviously the challenges that come with caring too. Yeah,
sure. I think it just getting together, and actually what I've heard from quite a lot of people in networks is, and it's how they kind of choose. It's very important actually that they are kind of carer led in that regard. It's how you choose to use that time, and sometimes it might be to talk specifically about something that's a challenge at work or a challenge at home. Sometimes actually you might not want to talk about that at all and just simply have a kind of chat about nothing or everything else, but it's really just, it's that connecting to people, isn't it? And it breaks some of the isolation and the loneliness that folk often feel. Does anyone else get anything that they want to raise, having heard Amanda? Okay, thanks. Oh yeah, sorry, Yvonne, you've got your hand up.
Thank you. Thanks, Amanda. No, that was great. I was struck when you were saying at the beginning about your group being closed, and that's great. This was just a reflection of the organisation as well, and it reminded me that we actually have a relatively new closed group as well, which was set up, although it was set up under our Parents Supporting Parents Network group, but and this was primarily for parents and guardians of children with additional support needs and to our neurodivergent. So that again, the carers network and that group are kind of collaborating and working quite closely as well. And we've seen numbers within that group rise incrementally every single month, basically, when there's communications across lots of different comms channels. So there's obviously so much more we need to do. And I think it's really, we want to ensure that it's a really safe environment for that group of colleagues as well. So no, that's really great to hear that's working really well for you as well.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay, and we can sort of chat more around various issues after this. Fiona from the Crown Office Procurator Fiscal Service, which I always find really I know that you were wanting to, well, you maybe not wanting, I had asked and you had agreed that you'd be happy to input some information from your perspective at COPS as well.
Yes, and I have Lynn Jameson, who is
and Lynn
a
as
fellow
well,
member.
sorry Lynn.
And
Co-opted in.
Yes. We have a staff equality network for carers in COPFS, and that was re-established in about March 2021, and it's led by carers, and it's for the benefit of carers, but it has a wider remit as well, because we have representatives from both trade unions on the network, and we also have a wide variety of caring experiences amongst all of our network members. And when we first got started and came together, one of the first things that we wanted to do was to try and look at getting a carers policy in place. So we worked very, very closely with the Diversity, Inclusion and Wellbeing team in our HR. And we eventually got the policy introduced last April, and that has been of great benefit to carers. And as a network, we try to provide support not only to each other, and Lynn, chip in what we do. We meet online. We used to meet as a network every month, and that was separate to another online event that we hold monthly and still continue to do, and that's our monthly tea breaks. And that is for anyone in the whole organisation who is a carer and wants to just drop in. And I was quite keen when I heard others talking about it being closed. That is closed, the monthly tea breaks. It's a safe environment, and we get people there, and we're able to then raise awareness and support them about get the process to go through to get the benefits of our carers policy.
And as Amanda said, to swap stories as well.
Absolutely.
If you want to share, if you don't want to share and just sit and listen, then that's absolutely fine. But I think we found, Fiona, that everybody does contribute to some extent. And as you said, Amanda, we do have the funny stories as well as, the tough ones, that experiences that people are going through. So I think that it's been valuable to me. I'm not the kind of person that really joins groups and stuff. I just got on with things. But I found out about the policy when Fiona was getting it all set up for us. And I got in touch with her, and I found it really, really helpful, and everyone's been really great. I'm a carer for my dad who lives with me. He's nearly 94. And so I found out through a colleague when I emailed her about something. She said, I think you should get in touch with Fiona Holligan. So I did, and it's been really, really good. I found the whole peer support thing excellent in terms of what we've done. I will be speaking to Fiona after this, so I think we might need to steal the career wall, though. The carers wall, rather. Do you know what? It sounds like a good idea.
Absolutely.
On top of what we do, because I think the peer support in our organisation is particularly good.
Yeah.
We've
also collaborated with other networks as well. And I don't know about other organisations, but we hold an annual equality conference, and that recognises individual but also network, the quality networks, the staff ones that are there. And we were lucky enough to win the award last year, and that was because of the amount of work that we put into getting the policy up and running. We used that opportunity. We have a stall, and all of the staff networks have a stall, and that's how we got in contact and were chatting away with other networks. And as a result of that, what we have done is similar to what I think Yvonne had said, was we've got a neurodiversity and disability parent carer support group. So, and that was because the neurodiversity staff equality network sort of joined with the carers network, and as a carer for my young niece who has neurodiverse, then it was an ideal opportunity, and that again is a closed group and to provide peer and peer support. I think Lynn will agree. The way we as a network try to approach it is to raise awareness across the organisation in as many different ways as we can. And we do that through, like yourselves, the Carers Week, you know, personal stories. And I was interested when you're saying about, we don't have a carers wall, but what we do have is support from right at the top of the Crown Office, and that's the Crown agent, who happens to be my direct line manager at the minute. So he was very much supportive of carers, and he opened up our Carers Week this year with a message, and we're getting the HR director, she's going to close the week by giving a message of support and to let our staff know about the policies and the support. And we also have a staff or a carer network page, and that's for all staff that can see, and we use Viva Engage as well. But the actual staff page for the Carers Network, we keep that updated, and that has information about the members, you know, who our carer network are, who they can contact, the support that's available, and through that, Lynn will more be able to jump in here as well, but we ourselves get contacted by not just staff who identify as carers or realise, oh, actually, I am a carer and I want to know more about what the support is available. A lot of line managers have contacted us as well, saying, I've got someone in my team and I want to know how to support them better. And so we're able to help support and signpost them to what they can do to help carers. And that's been really good.
Yeah, and I think some of the policy, you know, what we've got for stat carers as well in terms of our leave policy and stuff, so you can get time off, you know, medical appointments, and we've got a week for carers leave, and also compassionate care leave and things like that. And because we've got flexi time, we've got flexi time policies and things, so that's a good way of supporting staff as well, because that was my issue when I first sort of joined the carers group, was I wasn't actually sure what I was to do in terms of appointments for Dad, if I could time away, or what happened at the time. He was going through a lot of hospital appointments and things sort of peak and trough, so you're never actually very sure. So having policies in place helps, and then when you've got people like myself and Fiona particularly to contact, they can then help staff find out what they can do to help them, you know, when they need them, as and when.
Yeah, we also used had awareness sessions and sort of training. So we asked Vocal, and they came along, who helped support carers in Lothian. And so they then developed for us and gave 2 training sessions to carers in COPFS. One was about to help with your health and well-being, and one was about money matters. But we also took it one step further and decided to try and raise awareness for our line managers and help them to be able to support them so they could support the carers in their team. So they came along, I think it was April this year, and ran a session which was attended by a variety of different managers from all different levels and across the organisation. So it wasn't just first line managers. What we were getting was, you know, more senior managers as well that were taking an interest. So hopefully that gives you a kind of flavour of the types of things that we do in COPFS to try and support each other. So I'm happy. We're absolutely going to be taking back what some of the ideas from today, because we're by no means the finished product, and we're just continuing to help support each other.
Thank you, Fiona and Lynn. That was great. And yeah, I think that is the point about networks. They're probably never at a sort of they're never at a standstill. There's always scope to develop more, different ways of supporting, different ways of engaging and raising awareness and reaching out to people. But I think the other thing that's striking me as we're listening to all this is that, as well as helping carers, within those networks and when the groups get together, really how helpful they are to organisations in inputting to the development of policies, to supporting line manager training, to signposting to external organisations. There's actually some really helpful, a wide range of helpful things that the networks are achieving for people and organisations. Has anyone got any specific questions for Fiona and Lynn at this stage? Okay, doke. I think I'll just, we'll finish this wee bit of asking folk to speak with Lenny, if you wouldn't mind, from NatWest, just coming in at this stage. I know that you and Peter are very familiar with us, with Carer Positive, and with all the work that you've done with the network at what was RBS and is now NatWest. And I know that Peter can't make it here today, but it's really good to see you. But yep, if you want to chip in, that would be great.
Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I'm in the office, so it's a bit noisy. But yeah, no, thanks so much for inviting us along. So, as you said, work at NatWest Group. So my day job is actually an internal audit, and then my side hustle would be Carers co-lead with Peter for our Carers work streams. So the way NatWest Group is set up, we have employee-led networks. So for example, there's a multicultural network, the Rainbow Network, and we have what we call the Home Life Network, and that covers off a lot of different subjects, but one of them is our carers support proposition. So we have, in NatWest Group, we've got a carers leave policy. At the minute, carers leave isn't paid. However, we do have like dependencies leave and other types of leave that you can kind of work around. I've never not been paid for having to take time off, put it that way, for looking after my dad. I should probably say that, I look after my dad, that's why I'm here. So we have that policy in place. For our kind of ongoing offering, we run a carers cafe. So that's every 2 months. We did used to do it monthly. We changed it to every 2 months. And that's a kind of open session for anybody who is a carer, who has been a carer, to come along, speak with others, a kind of same theme as a few of you have mentioned already. You can share, there's always laughing and there's always crying, and there's usually both on the same call, and that's just an opportunity for carers to come and speak to each other about what they're going through, but equally they don't have to speak. I always say at the start, there's no obligation or no expectation. You can have camera on or off, and the same with mic. So with your mic on or off, there's no kind of pressure there, but generally we do find that people tend to open up in the second half. So that's an hour every 2 months. And then for Carers Week, we did a call last week. We took up our free lunch and learn session, and we did a kind of intro to Carers Week last week by doing a call called Am I a Carer Who Cares? And what we did for that is we had we kind of went through the stats a lot of the time, or for most of that, so that it takes on average 2 years for someone to identify as a carer, and we really focused on the identification piece there. And then what we did for Carers Week is yesterday we had a panel session with our exec sponsor, and we've brought to life the theme of putting carers on the map. We've very creatively called it Putting Carers on the NatWest Group Map, and we had panelists speak about their experiences by bringing to life personas. So, like, for example, sorry guys, I'm trying to do like a whistle stop tour because there's actually so much. So for example, the personas that we brought to life were, we had a list. We said this isn't exhaustive, but for example, caring from a distance, dementia carer, hands-on carer, living carer, reluctant carer, sandwich carer. I sent this list out to our speakers and said, if any of these resonate with you, could you bring to life your personal story by saying these by highlighting which ones you resonate with. And we had incredible feedback for that panel session yesterday. It was about over 130 people registered for it. And straight after, people were sending direct emails across with feedback. Like one person emailed saying that they, I think I cried for the whole hour. I'm in admiration of all those presenting. So it just shows that the lived experience really, really makes a difference. And some of the other feedback from individuals is saying that attending that call and hearing all the different stories made them realise that, oh, actually I am a carer. And they've all registered. We saw our stats for who's registered for the Home Life Network newsletter increase as well. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. The other thing that we do every year is for Carers' Rights Day. We always have an event where we have a HR colleague come along, so people can ask questions and find out what they're entitled to. Twice now, last year and the year before, we had our carers leave policy updated off the back of questions that were raised on that call. So we do that every year. I don't think I've missed anything. The other thing I would say as well for anybody who's maybe at the start is I found when I was at the beginning of doing all this, I kind of reinvented the wheel a lot and tried to do everything. But because we're members with Work Life Central and Bank Workers Charity, there's a lot of resource already out there. So what I tend to do now as an exercise before I start planning for anything is look at all our external partners and see what they're doing. And then if there are any gaps specific to my organisation, then I'll put the effort in to kind of plug those gaps, because otherwise it's a lot of work, especially when you're doing it side of desk. And as well, personally, I attend the Work Life Central peer support group, because facilitating the one at the bank, you don't really get the full benefit and you take on quite a lot and you absorb a lot of it. So for myself, I always then attend an external one so that I get the opportunity to be a participant rather than a facilitator. I'm going to shut up now. I think that's everything. So hope I've not missed anything.
That was fantastic, Lenny. No, that covered so much. And that's a really interesting point to finish on, actually, that as the people, and I guess that's probably most of you here today, as the ones who are involved in facilitating or setting up the networks and running them and sort of chairing them or driving them along. It's what that, does that take a toll on you individually? Do you feel you can sort of benefit from, being part of the network in the same way as you might if you weren't in that position of kind of leading it? I wonder what other people think of that. That was a good point to raise, Lenny. In fact, Fiona, I'm sure you mentioned that when we had a chat recently as well.
Yes, I would say that I think one of the challenges for myself personally, but also for the network, is everyone's so busy with getting on with working, finding time to put your caring responsibilities, your home life, as well as trying to fit in actually driving forward what you're wanting the network to achieve. So that is definitely a big challenge, and that's why we used to have monthly network meetings as well as having the monthly tea breaks. And what we've realised is that we've tended to, as a network, the work that we're doing to try and drive forward, things like the policy and tweaking it, and as we go along, we tend to do that more on Teams channel. So, and you can get a quicker response than trying to go through everyone's calendar to try and find a time that suits, because everyone's got different working commitments and working patterns. So it is a bit of a challenge, and also a challenge personally to try and do that. So what I've had to learn is that to accept help and not just do it all myself, because I'm the chair of the network and I'm also the quality ambassador for carers. So I do get contacted a lot by other people, and that's why, Lynn, you weren't dragged in here. You were quite rightly able to help me out. So I don't know if others find that as well, is that it's just trying to fit everything in.
I was going to say you do an awful lot for our organisation as well, Fiona, because you do take so much of the lead. But I think the good thing about us all, you know, in the group, that we're all here to help and support if we can, and take other wee jobs on if we can do it, to try and lighten the load a wee bit, because it is a lot, you know, to take on and try and juggle everything. And I think, as Richard said at the start, and we got that feedback from one of the meetings we had when we were setting up the policy, is people would want to be working, you know, so we're trying to balance our caring and jobs as well. So we're having policies in place and helping each other, it lets us do both. Yeah.
Lenny, pop in anytime. Guys, I should say this, put your hand up, but also feel free just to come in and take yourself off microphones and talk, because this is really just a sort of very interactive session. So chat away. But Lenny, you come in, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, they also have just what Fiona was saying there reminded me, because we also have a mailbox. So any queries that come into the mailbox, whether it be from a carer or a line manager, then they'll get directed to us. So it's like 2 mailboxes you're managing, and it is a lot. So certainly we have lots of different support groups, not from carers. There's like a bereavement cafe, there's a menopause cafe, there's a cancer cafe, there's loads of peer support groups. And what we do is we actually, the people who facilitate the peer support groups, we actually get together every couple of months. And it's almost like a support group for the people who run the peer support groups, because it can be quite heavy subjects. And also it can be quite challenging sometimes, because sometimes people do disclose things that would make you feel quite concerned, and we're there to kind of listen, but we're not there to give advice, or, you know, we're not professionals. So since that's been set up this year, I found that quite beneficial, because you can essentially go on and unload as well to people who get it. So that has helped. But I think the toll it takes definitely can be underestimated when you're trying to do, if it's not your day job. Like I spoke at the Business Disability Forum annual conference last year, and I was on a panel, and everybody else on the panel, it was their day job to support carers and accessibility. And I was the only person whose day job was different. I was trying to do that at the same time, trying to do that as well as also being a carer, and then also trying to do the planning. But I think, to what Fiona said as well, there's accepting help. I think the nature of being a carer is like you become really competent at juggling things and getting things done, and you're like, not gonna lie, like I do think I'm the most efficient person to be doing this stuff, because it's all in my head and I know it's there. So being able to like let go and being like, do you know what, it'll come together, and it's going to be okay, and what's the worst that's going to happen, and let go a little bit. That's been probably quite hard for me, but I think that's actually been what's absolutely saved me this year, and letting other people, I'd say letting, but that's true, like letting other people get involved a little bit. That's been the kind of biggest saving grace for me, I'd say, this year, that's made it manageable. I've not cried this year planning Carers Week. I usually cry because I get so stressed, which defeats the purpose. It's not how it's supposed to be like that. But yeah, that's always going to come in and stay there.
Thanks for sharing that, Lenny. I think that's such an important point, and it's often something that's missed when we have discussions like this, that it takes its toll, doesn't it? It really, you know, it kind of catches up with you. And you're absolutely right. This is on top. This is an addition to your day job. So it is a lot to. It's a lot to take on, and you know, it benefits so many people, but it can obviously be quite challenging as well. I wonder if people feel that they get. I don't know quite how to put this. Do you feel that you get enough support from your organisations, in a sense, to be able to run networks? Or, and that's not necessarily being critical of the employers, but because sometimes actually, if it's carer led and it's very much sort of everything's developed by the carers who are involved in these networks, they maybe have chosen for that to be the kind of model that they take forward. But do you think it could be helpful to kind of get more support at an organisational level to be able to kind of run these groups?
Perhaps I could come in here from COPFS perspective. We have a quality board that is chaired by one of our deputy Crown agents, because they take equalities very seriously. But I can only speak for myself, but I know that because my line manager happens to be the Crown agent, we have monthly one-to-one meetings. I suppose no doubt other organisations will have their own variation of that, and that health and well-being is part of that. So I have to confirm if I'm how I'm feeling and if I'm able to juggle my work, my home life. But part of that is also the caring network element of it. So I feel that I do get supported. It doesn't necessarily mean to say that I'm very proficient at juggling them all or juggling the jelly, as it were. But I do think that our organisation is one where they do try, and they're open to us coming to them to say we need more support if we need it.
Okay. Anyone else? Martin, hi there. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We've just been hearing from the kind of format for the session, Martin, is that we just sort of kicked off with hearing some examples of how different organisations are running their kind of peer support networks, and we're just having a kind of open chat about those now. But I'll maybe just take this opportunity to pause for a minute, and I'm just going to share my screen briefly again, and then I'll disappear it. But I just had some sort of question prompts, but I don't want to lead this. I think it's all flowing quite naturally anyway. And actually, one of the questions that I wondered about discussing, oh gosh, wait a minute. Is this it now? Here it's here. No, it's not. Oh no, wrong one, sorry. You're about to see a slide that's not the right one. I'll come back out. No, this one, sorry. I just wondered, going back to what we were talking about, and maybe it's better to sort of go back to the sort of challenges bit for a second, given that that's what we were on. But I just wondered about, what had been the key challenges for people and whether that was in terms of their own time, the resources to do this, other challenges presumably about, where and how to do this and how to get kind of carer participation, but also around that, how to decide what kind of peer support mechanism to establish, and whether that was in person or online or, a cafe or a chat room or a mix of formats. And really what had worked well. But I think we're kind of covering most of those points anyway. So I'll come back out of that. Those were just some of the kind of questions as prompts. But I'm going to come back out and just go back to asking, are there other challenges that people think have been, particularly predominant in either how you've set up your peer support group or network or forum, or you had a challenge but you've overcome it? Anything else? Elaine?
Yeah, I think for NHS 24, part of our kind of challenge that we're trying to work through at the moment is we've got different skill sets that do very different roles. For some of them, it's much easier to access information or to drop into a group. And for others, we can't get them offline because the demand of the service is that they need to be online. And obviously there is a balance there to be struck as well when people obviously have caring responsibilities where they do need to be extracted from their online duties. We're needing to look at how we can do that flexibly for them. So as an organisation, we are lucky that we do have a lot of policies like carers leave, which is paid for the week for our teams. We do have bereavement leave. We do have some elements of flexible working, depending again on what type of role you have within the organisation. And I think going back to what you were saying about wellbeing support, we've got a lot of resources at our fingertips really because of the services that we operate. So because we are part of Care Information Scotland, so we're covering all of Scotland, we have we're the kind of national signposting service for information for carers, where to start out, how to access help and support. all the kinds of resources are there for people to access. We've also got NHS Inform that's got a lot of information about kinds of mental well-being. There's self-help guides. There's access through NHS 24 to a mental health hub now as well. I don't know if anybody knows about that, but through 111 there's actually a dedicated mental health support team that work as well, so you can pick from the IVR and get put through to them. So part of what we've found is it's trying to, we've also got things, like Thrive and other kinds of organisational wellbeing tools that the teams can access. But part of what we've found is we're trying to kind of streamline what we're sending out to people so it's not overwhelming. And we're very aware that caring responsibilities are going to be very different depending on, for example, if it is somebody that's a parent of a child with neurodiversity, or if it's somebody that's looking after an elderly parent with Alzheimer's. So we're trying to kind of cater for all, but kind of signpost out to where's most appropriate for people, rather than trying to be everything to all people through the network itself. I don't know if that really makes sense, if I put that in the most eloquent way, but I'm wondering if anybody's got any kind of feedback on that as to how, if you're dealing with kind of a mix of different workforces, how people overcome that. Thanks.
I think we're kind of the same. We've got a workplace adjustment passport, don't we, Fiona, that can help, because we've got people with very different roles as well throughout the service, and we can also move them into other teams. So you can perhaps be, folk maybe so they're not in court all the time, or they can work from home some of the time and change the rota to help round that. That's correct, isn't it, Fiona? We can help with that, which is good.
Yes. The only other thing I was going to add, sorry, I've had problems with my mic there, but very quickly, is just to say, to try and help and recognise that some people can't, they've got different roles. We hold our monthly tea break alternately on a Tuesday after at 4 o'clock to 4:30, and on a Thursday between 12:30 and 1, and that's to capture as many people as possible, to let them, because we're aware that people have court responsibilities or whatever responsibilities, meaning that they're not always available.
Right, sorry, my internet dipped there, so I lost sight of things, but I'm back in. And we have, let me just see whose hand up is here. Kirsty Diamond. Kirsty, do you want to come in? Oh.
Different locations, so trying to be able to make things more accessible to them. I would say it's an opportunity, not a challenge, because that's the way that I try to approach things. Any of our awareness sessions are always recorded and such. Our tea.
Can everyone hear Kirsty, or is it just me? No, okay.
I think you're breaking up.
Kirsty, I think you're breaking up a wee bit. Sorry about that. If you want to pop in the chat anything, and we can try and pick up with you when you're back on. Okay. Right, okay, we'll leave Kirsty just now. Martin, I wondered whether you might want to say how important the IBM community has been in developing the support for carers there. It's a very sort of strong example of how a network has been very much carer-led.
Yeah, and I didn't appreciate how much we were carers-led compared to other organisations. I kind of just assumed everybody was the same, but then I don't know every example. I've just come off a presentation that we did for Carers Week, and I led this presentation for an hour to the whole of IBM. But of course, you only ever get about 40 or 50 people coming on, but that's 40 or 50 people that you may not have got to before. And we got folk on from the US. One of the things that's different for IBM is that we get people, somebody talking there earlier about when they time their meetings. We've had to time our meetings so that one's in the morning, once every 2 weeks, and then one's in the afternoon 2 weeks later, so that the folks from the US can come on. So we've kind of adapted our time because of actually the times that people are working in. But what we just said in that meeting there, and I'll be very brief, is the IBM Carers community started in 2018 when Vivian was walking down a corridor in the London office with a lady called Deborah. And Vivian was explaining to Deborah about how her mum had just been diagnosed with terminal cancer and her dad was just starting to show the signs of dementia. And she was talking to Deborah about it, and Deborah said, why don't you start a carers community? And that's how we started back in 2018. 2 good people talking in a corridor. Vivian then started the carers community, and we've now got 214 people in our carers community 6 years later. It's been a right old slog getting there, and it's been difficult to get the message out. We've gone from 2 people to 214 across about 3 geographies in about 10 countries. It took us a long time to get there. Amplifying the message to say to people, you want to know about this because it could affect you. You know, 1 in 5, 1 in 7, whatever the stat is. You know, if you're over 50, you've got a 50% chance. You know, the numbers are pretty compelling that whether you are a carer just now, there's a good chance you will be. And the trouble with that message is it's quite a modelling, kind of sad kind of conversation. Do you know you could be, you know, you could have this situation that no one would wish for to be a carer. But actually, I think we've managed to make it a message that's popular. Made it a message that is positive, back to the carers positive. I love the fact that it's called Carers Positive, because there's lots to be positive about. If we know, and we've said this a lot in our community, if we've been through, so my son's got autism and learning difficulties. My daughter has got epilepsy, but a very, very controlled epilepsy. Just, you know, there's obviously a lot of epilepsy that isn't as controlled as that. And my dad died of dementia a number of years ago. If you've got all this knowledge, it's better to share it so that people who are about to go through it get to hear how not to go through the mistakes that you made, the year it took you, another year it took you to find out about NHS support or some local authority that does X or some charity that does Y. It's about trying to help people who are joining the carers community, or either carers and at the start of the journey, colleagues of carers who need to be empathetic to their colleagues, managers who are managing people. So it started with 2 people in IBM in 2018, and we are where we are today. And I'm so happy to be part of this group of people, because I learned so much from listening to you guys. Some of you in NHS, some of you in local authorities, some of you in different companies. I spoke to the NatWest and somebody from NatWest, the Phoenix Group, Chris Ash from Social Security. You know, it's great to meet with folks because we're all struggling with the same. How do we get the message out without it sounding like, if you said, let's have a call about carers, people would go, gee whiz, do I have to attend that? But if you then get them on, they'll suddenly see the benefit of it, and they'll see it's actually a very positive thing. So that's where we are in IBM on this stuff. It's very carers-led. It's not HR-led. It's not built into the structure of IBM. Yes, IBM does give out it gives out 5 days paid carers leave. Yes, it does have all the other different policies that you'd expect it to have. But are we as a carers community, you know, linked in a very strong way with the people who make those decisions? No, we're very much a bunch of volunteers. And whether we should change that or not, I'm not sure, you know. So that's where we are, Sue.
Yeah, no, that's great. I thought it'd be interesting for folk to hear that as well, Martin. Thank you. And it just shows that there isn't one size fits all. I think there are different models depending on, you know, the particular organisation you're in. And I suppose I would say on the call today, you know, it's mainly, I know there are some smaller organisations, but it's mainly bigger kind of public sector bodies who are kind of here today. Obviously, IBM isn't public sector, but it's mainly bigger bodies that have the, you know, maybe more of a resource behind or numbers behind being able to kind of establish a group. But I wonder if other employers as well, including big employers as well, big networks, link to, well, one of the things I'm always keen to stress to folk is to link to your local carer centre, because it's always such a great source of support, you know, and especially if you've got if somebody's got a particular issue that they're dealing with locally, you know, whether it's in relation to, I don't know, the local authority or health board or school or what, you know, whatever, it's helpful for a local carer centre to be able to give some support and advice, or to be able to help with something around maybe power of attorney or adult care support plans, carers assessments. And I would certainly say, and I think everyone here certainly knows that if their network doesn't already, you know, have some sort of linkages or signposting to their local carer centre, you know, that's a really good thing to link up to. Amanda, I can see you've got your hand up.
I was just going to agree with what you were saying about the being linked into the local carers centre, because like I was saying when I was chatting earlier, we worked with Dundee Carer Centre and they were invaluable. And I mean, it's an open door policy we've got with them. So if we did want to do something like you were saying there on the power of attorney or health and well-being or short breaks, that we can invite them in to talk with the group. They've been brilliant to work with, and like I say, we signed their charter too, to show the commitment.
Yeah, and I know that some carer centres are quite willing to come into workplaces and do some carer awareness sessions or line manager training. I know that VOCO was mentioned earlier on, but similarly, carer centres across the country, you know, can help with that as well. Elaine, you very helpfully popped in the link to carer centres that Care Information Scotland has as well. So that's something to look at. If as I say, I'm sure most of you do that already, but I just wondered about other experiences of sometimes maybe getting a carer centre in to talk to a network or group. We've heard some great examples of what folk have been doing, you know, to reach out to people in organisations to help them recognise themselves as carers and identify themselves and raise awareness and try and, you know, get as many people as possible accessing the support of the networks. But are there any other things that people who I didn't kind of ask to speak initially, are there any other examples of what you feel has worked well? Not just in that regard, but any other examples that you might want to share, and maybe that's you know, on a very sort of small basis or something small that you find that's made quite a big difference. Because I think a lot of this has been trial and error sometimes, and people trying different things and new ways of reaching people. But I just wonder if anyone's got any other points of practice they would want to share.
Very quickly, we've got this board called the Hacks and Recommendations Board, which is so going to all the wee small things. For example, you know, a CEA card. I can't remember what CEA card stands for, but it's a card that if you've got somebody who, like my son, who's got autism, you can get a card that you can go to the cinema with them, and you only get charged for one person going into the cinema. And it's about signposting all those lots of really small things that can make a difference to somebody's social life. Neighbourhood network, carer centres, they're all the bigger things, isn't there? But it's all the wee things that you can pass them to. And we've got this big hack. So if I can show you, if I'll try and find it, I might try and show you. But it's all the wee things that you can help people with that are really good as well. Sue.
Yeah, no, I've heard that often, Martin, that sometimes people think that sort of maybe changing, making things better for carers means a huge, big change or something massive or something kind of quite difficult for employers to be able to do. But it's often a very small thing that can make an enormous difference. So I think the hacks and ideas wall is a great idea as well. And maybe after this session, if folk have got particular ideas that they want to share, I'm quite happy to gather those all together and sort of send them round more widely. Let me just flip back to the slides for a second, because what I also wanted to just, I think those questions are there. We've kind of covered a number of them, but if anyone else feels that there's anything that they could contribute to any of these or other issues, then please do speak up. But I just wanted to also, in case, and you will, obviously everyone knows that this week is Carers Week, it's why we're here today. But the Carers Week website, in case you don't know, and I'm sure you all do, the Carers Week website does have some quite nice resources and some quite good graphics and posters and things. So I really just wanted to make sure while I had everyone here today that you were aware of these and that you might want to use some of them. And you can pop activities. The theme is putting carers on the map, really trying to raise the visibility of carers right across Scotland, wherever you are. So just a couple of screens here with some quite nice resources. This is always one, this poster at the side here, I use this quite a lot in a lot of presentations, and I think it's always one that really resonates with carers who recognise all these different elements of being a carer. Because normally when we talk about, what's the definition of a carer, it's that usual description of somebody who looks after or cares for someone who might have a disability or an illness, or someone who might be older. But I love that poster that just lists the various elements that are emotional, that are physical, that are time consuming, and that just cover so many things that I think if you're not a carer, you don't always have a grasp of. So I always want to share that one again for people to use. It's quite nice to be able to kind of use these resources to spread awareness of carers and Carers Weeks. Also, there are a number of posters there that these are all downloadable from the Carers Week website. So if you've not had a look on it, go on, have a look, download whatever looks useful, and you can share those internally. And just on some other further helpful information, certainly Carers Scotland, our organisation, has a wealth of information that, again, I think you may all be pretty well aware of, but I think as part of networks, it's always helpful to let people know that this information is available as well. It's all available from our website, all downloadable. I've put a few other links in there that you might want to pass on to people, and just a few examples of some of the fact sheets and information guides that we've got available. So I'll just come out of this again. I just wanted to kind of highlight those before we finish off. But I just want to kind of open to everyone again. I'll ask Amanda, I'll ask you to come in a wee second. I was just going to open for discussion again, anything that anyone else really wanted to raise. But Amanda, you had your hand up, so do come in again.
Oh, my hand's not up on my screen.
Oh,
It must
sorry.
be-
Sorry,
No.
it's gone. It's gone. It's gone. Sorry
Okay.
about that. I thought I saw it for a minute. Would folk think that? Oh, sorry, Martin. You popped your
Let me just
hand.
very briefly share the hacks thing, because I think you might find, hopefully you'll find it compelling. Who knows, you might not.
All right. Okay, go for it.
This
Good.
whole, my goodness, let me just make sure I know how to do this. There we go. Tell me if you can see this. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's all the wee things. It's all the wee things. So there's the CEA card, and it's visual. People love visuals. People love visuals. I love this one particularly. Anyone looking for a non-smart TV, when you've got somebody who's got dementia or old age, and they don't want your smart TVs that completely and are just wired to the moon, don't they? They want a TV they can switch on and off. So it's those kind of wee hints and tips, the jam card, anyway, all the different things that just can't wait card, I guess. There's blue badge card, how to access blue badges. Anyway, it's all very visual. I think hopefully just by showing you this, you can see that, and it's kind of done under different headings. So I just that's what we built, and we found that was the thing that pulled everybody in the most.
You can tell this has been built by you can tell that this is from a tech organization. Right. It looks so smart.
And
we could maybe do it with post-its. We could do it with post-its or something. We can adapt. It's great.
Yeah. It's adaptable.
I've got a very talented guy, Gary, who's a carer, and he's very technical. And he says, "I'll do that for you." And we went, "Oh, bloody hell, Gary, that's great." So again, isn't caring just the biggest leveler? You could be top exec, you could be whatever, or you could be a techie guy or an accountant or whatever. You can all bring your skills to the carers community, because it's not one area we come from. So we just use the skills of the folk who are carers. So that's it's really fancy. Could I do that? No, absolutely not. So hopefully that was useful.
Yeah, lots of nodding. I think we've seen a lot of really useful and stealable ideas, I think, today. I'm sure a lot of folk will be going back and sharing these kind of ideas. What do you think about doing this on, Martin, you weren't here when I kind of mentioned this earlier. Do you think this is a useful, I'm just putting everyone on the spot collectively here, but do feel free to pop anything into the chat. If you think it's helpful kind of nationally, and I know that, we do have a lot of organisations who are carer positive, and obviously there's not, in those terms, there's a reasonably small number here today, but I'd be quite happy to continue on a sort of regular basis, hosting a kind of network of networks, if you like, carer positive session, if you think that that's something that people would find useful.
100%.
Yes.
Good stuff. Okay, well, we'll give some more thought to that, and we'll kind of get that kicked off at one point. I think somebody mentioned earlier on, and apologies for, I've maybe missed some of the detail on the chat, but somebody mentioned maybe doing something, not to say that we couldn't do something before then, but maybe something in November around about Carers' Rights Day. I don't know at the moment, but if anyone wants to come in on that. Amanda, was that your idea?
It is my hand this time.
Good. Okay.
No, I think that would be a great idea, and I don't know how other folks would feel about it, but sometimes trying to get together to celebrate like Carers' Rights Day and have enough content to try and attract people to attend events. Sometimes that we might only have like between 12 and 20 folk, is that it'd be good if there was an opportunity to maybe do more shared events to attract people to attend.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we try to do kind of carer positive sessions, you know, as often as we can, but it is difficult always, you know, making those accessible to all employers. But I quite like the idea of just of certainly this networks session, because I think what's helpful about it, and clearly we've touched upon this today as well, you know, you end up talking about much wider things as well, and we touch on policy and we touch on the input that networks has, you know, into actually driving, you know, the development of carer support forward within their organisations. So it's probably a good forum to, you know, focus on maybe the challenges and successes of how networks and peer support operates, but it can also broaden into some other elements as well. But yeah, that's nice to hear that folk would think that's a good idea. Anyone got anything else they'd want to say? And maybe it's probably too difficult to think about that on the spot just now, but perhaps if we do come together again, it would be good to get an idea of the kind of topics that people would find, you know, most helpful. If there's anything that you can think of particularly just now. I mean, I guess what we've focused on today has been mainly sort of good practice and sharing some ideas and some really helpful information about what's worked well. And we touched a wee bit about the challenges, and particularly on those people who are delivering, you know, and developing networks, and the time and resource and the emotional toll that can take. But if there are other challenges, other particular issues that you can think of, feel free to, we can use some time to talk about those just now, or we can certainly focus on those at the next time.
Great.
Okay. Well, I can probably give you all some time back. I can't actually remember whether this session was, I think I'd sort of scheduled out 2 hours for it, but I was thinking it would either be around an hour and a half or between that and 2 hours. So I can certainly wind it up just now if no one's got anything else that they want to say. But thank you all so much for taking the time out of your Carers Week. I thought that was a nice session, and it was good to hear so many great elements of support. And if no one's got anything else to chip in, we shall all say goodbye to each other, and I hope the rest of your Carers Week goes really well. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Okay, bye
Thanks.
folks.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.